our current district parliamentarian. Please join me in welcoming Ken Krawchuk.
Thank you very much, Deborah. You know, hey, that's good right there. You know, I love trains. How many
Order,
people take...
order. This is about parliamentary procedure, not your love of trains.
Quite right. This is about parliamentary procedure, how to run an effective meeting. Parliamentary procedure is the intersection between communication and leadership. It's the ability to talk, and the ability to hear and act upon it going forward. It's very important, parliamentary procedure. It's how we keep the meetings running smoothly. Now, when I bring up parliamentary procedure, I didn't see many hands. Whenever we Toastmasters talk to somebody, we always try and tune our audience into the same radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? Let me tell you what's in it for me. A couple of you may have been there. This was about 10 years ago. We had a district council meeting where somebody stepped up to run a meeting. Our regular district governor at the time was not available. Somebody went to run the meeting, and this poor lady did not know parliamentary procedure. When somebody interrupted and said, "Point of order," she went, "I beg your pardon?" She was offended. Now, Mike was completely within his rights to raise a point of order because I was off the rails. Would you like to find yourself in a meeting where all of a sudden somebody says something where everybody else knows it's okay, but you're offended? Here's your chance to learn how to do it right. Now, before I begin, let me ask, how many people already know parliamentary procedure? Okay, show of hands. I want to get these faces. Deborah, where's Debbie? Give these people some M&Ms because I want to hear from them. If you got a bunch of parliamentarians in the room, it's like a bunch of grandmothers trying to say whose kids are the best, whose grandkids are the best. This is going to be a basic overview. All right? Parliamentary procedure can be a real handful, so I'm going to rely on hands. There's going to be a lot of rules of 5 going on here today. I'm going to talk about 5 areas. The first one is the history of parliamentary procedure, a brief history. We're going to talk about the roles at every meeting, the rules of order for conducting business, structuring that meeting, assuming I don't get a red flag by then, and conducting elections. The most important things that we need to know. And then we're going to practice. So take notes. I'm not going to be calling other people to do stuff. Sound good? Yes. Let's start with history. General Henry Martin Roberts, Brigadier General. At the age of 26, he was called upon to arbitrate, to lead a meeting at the church. 1863, just before the Civil War. 26-year-old guy. Do you know what happened? The abolitionists took over the meeting. They started arguing, the pros, the antis. Next thing you know, it was a huge disaster. He had no idea what to do. 8 years later, his wife asked him, "Can you give me some rules to run my women's society?" Now, he was looking back to the days when he was 26, and he said, "Yeah, we definitely need rules." So he put together some basic rules modeled after what the United States Congress was doing at the time. 4 years later, he said, "You know, I can do more with this." And he came out with, and let me get this right, Organization and Conduct of Business. 4,000 copies were sold. It was a huge hit because there was never anything before for a regular non-governmental organization, just a whole business, a lot like Toastmasters. A year later, 1876, he published his first edition of Robert's Rules of Order. And here it is 140 years later, the 11th edition just came out. And just like Toastmasters has staying power because we really are onto something, General Robert was really onto something. So there's a brief history. Let me pause briefly there. Any questions about the history of Robert's Rules of Order? Hearing none. Let's move on to the next one. You can't know what's going on at a meeting without knowing who is at the meeting. So this is point 2. As I said, number 5. So number 1 was history. Number 2, these are the roles. The most important person at the meeting is the chairman, or chair. I usually use the word chair. Purpose of the chair is to maintain order. The chair must be impartial. If you have a very biased chair, you know where the meeting's going to go. It's going to go south very, very quickly. Chair is not only impartial, chair acts more as a referee. That means the chair cannot speak in favor or against any business that's going on. And if the chairman does want to speak, what they have to do is, quote unquote, set aside the gavel. Let somebody else preside so the chair can add his own 2 cents or her own 2 cents to what's going on. The chair won't vote except to break a tie or make a tie. So the chair has a very, very powerful position. They can actually be the difference between victory and defeat for a motion. They can, however, vote in elections. Anybody can vote in an election, even for themselves. So there's your chair, the referee and impartial referee. The next most important person is the secretary. They're the person who takes notes to know what's going on. At a very minimum, you need those 2 people at a meeting, the chair and a secretary. After that, it's all good. The third person, group of people I should say, necessary for meeting, are the voting members. These are the people who are going to be voting yes, no, conducting business, trying to figure out what's going on. They're important, obviously, because just like in Toastmasters, what's a public speaker without an audience? He's got to talk to himself, that's why. It's the same thing. If you have a chair, a secretary, and no audience, or no voting members, there's nothing to do. The fourth most important person is the parliamentarian. Parliamentarian, generally speaking, keeps track of the rules. When a question comes up, looks it up in the book, and comes up with an answer. The parliamentarian serves at the pleasure of the chair. The chair can dismiss a parliamentarian, bring it into it at any given second, and the chair does not have to listen to what the parliamentarian has to say. Those of you who were at the District Business Council meeting a couple weeks ago, you saw that I was not interfering. I'm not allowed to interfere as a parliamentarian. Not only can I not speak in favor or against any motion, I cannot vote in favor or against any motion. I have a stronger rule of impartiality than even the chair does. However, I can vote in elections. Any voting member can vote in elections. So we have the chair, secretary, voting members, the parliamentarian, and the fifth person is the audience. Audience are just people who happen to be there. They're not voting members, they may not be members of the body. Maybe they're onlookers, guests, spouses. Spouse? What's a plural spouse? Whatever. They have no rights. They can't talk, they can't vote, they can't do anything without the leave of the voting members. You got it? Chair, secretary, voting members, parliamentarian, audience. Any questions about the roles? Sir, are you a parliamentarian?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
A parliamentarian, no.
Go ahead.
You said that the parliamentarian can only make a tie, or break a tie, or make a
Chair.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Chair can only break a tie or make a tie.
Correct.
If he makes a tie, who breaks the tie?
Nobody. A tie motion does not pass.
Okay.
You have to have a majority or better, it depends on the situation. Yes, ma'am.
Can you give us some examples of like places to use this procedure? Like, I'm curious as to why we're learning about it.
You use it as your club. How do you conduct club business? How do you decide to spend money? Especially if you're spending a lot of money. Do we get a banner? Or do we get ourselves a lectern? Do we spend it on open house? Or do we spend it on a big party with membership twice a year? Or whatever it may be. Any club business. It's also important when you conduct elections, officer elections. And also, if you're like me, somebody who's active in the political community, when you go to your local town meetings or any other meetings like that, that's how they run. And that way you know when to stand up, when to sit down, and when to say, point of order! Or whatever it may be. Many occasions. You're welcome. Any other questions about the roles? Hearing none. Let's move on. So we talked about history, the roles, now the third, the rules for conducting business. Here's where it gets interesting. This is where people get lost in the details a lot of times. But I can make it real easy because, like I said, parliamentary procedure is a real handful. Anytime you want to conduct business, such as the things we were just talking about, it's a 5-step process. Somebody has to make a motion to do something, and The motion needs to be seconded. There's discussion on it. You call the question, or you call the previous question. There's different ways of phrasing it. I say call the question, and then vote. Move, second, discuss, call the question, vote. Let me talk about each one of those one at a time. A motion. A motion is to do something. Spend money on a banner, to hold a big party, whatever it may be. Motions must always be phrased in a positive manner. You can't say, I move that Donald Trump never come here. You can't say that. It has to be positive. I move that we invite Hillary Clinton to come here. That's a positive one. Unless you like Hillary, then it could be negative. Logically positive. Let me put it that way. Everything starts with a motion. The chairman will accept the motion and restate it. At that point, nothing happens until one of the voting members seconds it. Just that. I second that. That means now the motion is on the floor. We now have a motion. So we can go to step 3, which is discussion. Of course, there's no motion, you can't do anything about it. If there's no second, you can't go to discussion. Once you come to discussion, then you can talk about it. And the chair will recognize people one by one to address the motion. And only that motion. Nothing else than that. When the chair is picking out people, and I can talk for days about how to be a chairman, and there's a lot of nuance to it. But one thing you should always do is alternate. Pro, con, back and forth. And if there's not enough pros, then of course you can go con, or whatever it may be. Discussion is always conducted politely. And the person speaking addresses the chair, not other members. That's what General Robert learned early on with the abolitionists. Speak to the chair only. How do you avoid the arguments? A person can't speak twice on an issue until everyone has had a chance to speak once. That way you make sure that everybody gets their innings. One of the main reasons for parliamentary procedure is to protect the rights of the smallest minority there is, the individual. You need to keep your rights protected. Motion. Second, discussion. When you've had enough, you can interrupt, just like Michael did say. I call the question. Call for a vote. Now, let's stop. And at that point, we take a vote. 2/3 of the people have to vote to stop discussion. Anytime you try to limit the rights of a member, it takes a 2/3 vote. Generally, it's a majority vote. 2/3 vote to stop anything. So to stop discussion, somebody says, call the question. I now have asked people, I say, without objection, we'll move to a vote. And somebody says, I object. I say, all right, let's take a vote. How many want to move on to the vote? And if 2/3 say yes, we move on to the vote. That way it's more difficult to step on the minority. It's not impossible, but it's a lot more difficult. Motion. Second. Discussion. Call question. Vote. Voting is simple enough. You can say show of hands, voice vote, secret vote. Any voting member can call for a secret vote. Typically, as chairman, I say, without objection, we'll go for a voice vote. All in favor? Whatever it may be. And that's it, and you go by the vote. So that's how you conduct your business. That's how you find out if you buy a banner or not. Any questions about the main motion? Yes, sir. You're not a parliamentarian, right? Any questions? Sorry?
Good question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You don't necessarily have to have a call question. If you can ask as the chair, is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Now, are you allowed to say call the question, or would you entertain a motion to call the question?
The chair does not call the question.
Right.
So voting member does. Yes.
So hearing no further discussion, you could say I'll proceed to a vote, or you require to have someone call the question.
Someone in the audience does have to call the question.
Have to call the
Correct.
question.
And I would say, without objection, we will call the question. And if somebody objects, then we vote to call the question. And if the vote succeeds, 2/3 of the vote, then we move on. And let me tell you about my grandchildren. I've got 3 of them so far. I said that.
You were talking about something about calling to the question of a secret ballot. Could you go over that again?
Correct. There are several ways of voting. One of them can be a secret ballot. One of them could be a show of hands. Another could be a voice vote. You can go with any sort of thing. Typically, the chair will try to drive it in one direction or another. For example, if I know it's going to pass easily,
Let me follow that up. What conditions in Toastmasters would we want a secret ballot?
I couldn't tell you, sir. That's up to your club.
I could actually bring up one. We had a discussion in the President's thing about whether or not having the pledge saying the pledge would be a requirement or it could be stopped. That's an area that had a lot of very, very contentious opinions. The secret ballot allows people to enter their opinion without being flagged as being on one side or the other.
I love it. That's a great example. That's a great example.
That's why you want to call it.
Yep. But you can. And I'm sticking here to the mechanics, not necessarily why you wanted to, although if you have a question about it, I'd be happy to try and address it. So it could be a secret ballot. And it's up to the voting members. They could just say, I move we have a secret ballot. The chairman will say, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? And then you go through. And some things are undebatable. That's the handout on the back. It shows which ones are debatable. There's a little D next to each one. Some of them are, some of them aren't. I don't want to get into all the weeds. That's it. If you come away with anything today, move, second, discussion, call the question, vote. That's how you conduct business. You get that, you're in good shape. Yes, sir.
Toastmasters International has a statement about the Pledge of Allegiance.
We're not here to talk about the Pledge of Allegiance, sir. Without objection, we're going to move on. All right, thank you. So I'm playing chairman now. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that everyone must speak once before speaking twice.
Can, not must.
Can. So you give them the option to speak if they're nothing to say.
Correct. I would just say, does anyone here speak to the motion? Somebody's going to raise their hand. The chair recognizes Michael in the back. Michael speaks, and he's done. Yes, ma'am.
Can the chair ignore someone who wants to speak?
No, the chair must be impartial. You could be Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or Gary Johnson. It doesn't matter. You raise your hand and you're the only hand up, I'm going to call you. Anything else about the main motion? Because there are subsidiary motions as well. Point of information. You're allowed to interrupt. If you have a question, how much does that background cost? Point of information. How much does that background cost? Point of information. Do we have to pay for Donald Trump's hotel? Or whatever it may be. It's dealt with immediately by the chair, and it's over. And you can interrupt. Point of order. Same thing. If you're going off the rails, if I'm talking about Amtrak, point of order. We're supposed to be doing this other thing. The agenda says we're doing X. You can interrupt, and the chair does it immediately. If you don't like the chair's decision, you can say, I appeal the ruling of the chair. And then I, as the chair, I say, all those in favor of sustaining the chair, say aye. Aye. Nay. Nay. It's immediate. And if the chair is sustained, we just move on. If not, the chair backs off. There are other ones. There's one other motion. I go for a lot of them, and I've got them all in the back of the handout there. But there's one important one. I mentioned this to Dave earlier, Dave Schlegel. Orders of the day. Yeah, they're laughing. One person can interrupt at any moment and say, orders of the day. That means whatever the agenda says for, what is it now, it's 118? Whatever the agenda says for 118, we move on with it. No discussion, no vote, no nothing. So you as a voting member have tremendous power the next time you're at a district council meeting and you see you're a half an hour late. Did you notice that I started on time? They know better. Orders of the day. And you move on. I've been at political conventions, national conventions, where all of a sudden people are just sitting there, looking at their agenda. Orders of the day! Because they don't like to speak. You have a tremendous power as voting members. I noticed. Oh.
When is it not appropriate to use these rules? In a general Toastmasters meeting, are you allowed to use these rules when they could disrupt the meeting, or is it generally for business?
My own opinion, I use them all the time, especially point of information with point of order. Those two. People tend to confuse those two, because it's a polite way of saying, excuse me, I have a question. There are business meetings where you have to gauge the audience. If there's 1,000 people, use it. If you got 5 people, 7 officers, maybe not, maybe a nod toward it. It's up to you as a chairman to feel out your audience, to see how strict. If it's something contentious, absolutely you want to use it. Otherwise you're going to wind up like General Robert with the abolitionists. Hearing.
What is exactly a question of privilege?
Question of privilege, there are two kinds. There's a personal privilege and just regular privilege. Regular privilege is that somebody turned off the lights. Who turned that happen? Where did cut off the lights? Mr. Chair, we turn the lights back on. That's a point of privilege. Point of personal privilege is the guy next to me keeps elbowing me. Mr. Chair, will you tell the member next to me to stop that? Point of personal privilege. And you can interrupt for that. Point of privilege, point of personal privilege. And there's a lot of these. Like I said, we can go on and on and on and on. This book, Robert's Rules of Order, 700 pages of 4-point type. Right? Give you a comparison, it's almost as big as the Christian Bible. Quite a lot. All right, I'm going to move on. We've talked about, next I'm supposed to do the structure of the meeting, but that's your typical agenda, your old business, new business. We don't have time for that, I'm sorry to say. All the questions, but the questions are good.
We just finished the first portion.
Correct.
Okay.
That's why I asked you to do that, because right, you give it to red, I know I don't have enough time, so I know that I can get into the next things that are important. Skipping the fourth thing, which is the structure of the meeting, which is an agenda. You should have an agenda. And don't put times on it, because that way nobody can say focus of the day. All right, moving on to the fifth point, elections. This is going to be important because you're going to be doing elections pretty soon. Again, 5 steps. Open the floor for nominations. Take the nominations. Close nominations. Speeches by the people nominated. And then vote. And there are nuances in there too. And I know that my grandmothers still have to come back and say that their grandchild is better than mine. But I digress. Let me go through them real quick. The chair will say, when there's an election, we're now electing President of the United States. The floor is open for nominations. I nominate person X. I nominate person Y. Whoever it is you want. And the secretary writes down each of the names. The person nominated must accept. If they don't accept, their name doesn't go on the list. Nominations can come from the floor, people say, or from a nominating committee. Typically from a nominating committee. That's how we do it with Toastmasters. But you can always add more people by electing people from the floor. It's okay to nominate yourself. May not look good. You can. A second is not necessary for nominations. However, it's nice to have because it shows support. Yeah, I nominate Donald Trump. I second it, I second it, I second it. Whoa, a second. This guy's got a lot of support. Whatever it may be. It's not necessary. It's only for a show of support. Eventually people wind down. They stop nominating. And they say, all right. Chair will look around and say, are there any other nominations? I will now entertain a motion to close nominations. Somebody in the audience will say, I move to close nominations. It needs to be seconded. It's something that stifles somebody, so it needs a 2/3 vote. Anytime you try and shut somebody up, 2/3 vote. But as chair, I would just say, without objection, we'll close nominations. There's no objection. Nominations are closed. Bang. Now we do speeches. We bring up the people who are nominated, and they tell us why they're such wonderful people and why we should vote for them. And once they're done, then we vote. And it goes to the same sort of voting as before. Secret vote, public vote, voice vote, whatever. I just touch briefly on slates. Some people say, oh, can we vote for a slate? Me as chair, I'd say, is there a motion to vote as a slate? So I say, yeah, I said we vote as a slate. So seconded. Without objection, we'll vote as a slate. Oh, I object. All right. And I'll have a vote to see if we do it as a slate or not. And it runs just like all other business. Move. Second. Discussion. All question. Vote. That's how we do elections. Any questions about elections?
Quick question. Does Robert's Rules dictate how long nominations have to be open, or would that be a club thing on how long you want to do that procedure?
No, it's up to the body. It's up to the voting members. The chair says nominations are open, and it keeps on going until it gets real quiet and you hear crickets. The chair will try and move things along and say, are there any other nominations? Without objection, we'll close nominations. It's up to you, the voting members, to do that. Any other questions? It's your last chance, because now we're going to practice.
Yes, I have one that's not specific to the elections, but more about the rules themselves. And based on one of the things you just said, you made a comment the chair will now entertain. That's something the chair's not allowed to do, but the chair knows from knowing the rules that this needs to happen. I know he was talking about what happens if nobody actually moves the vote.
Correct.
So is that like basically the easy way to get around that kind of?
Yes.
Okay.
As I said, I can talk for hours and hours about how to chair a meeting. I've done political conventions with hundreds of people in the audience, and they're all. So you gotta know how to move things along, and that's one way to do it. The chair will now entertain a motion to do X. That's one thing. The second one is without objection. As chair, those are key words for you. Without objection, roll over to the bar across the street.
Yeah, how about members in good standing for a vote, present at the meeting? Do you have to have a certain number or
There is
percentage?
a quorum requirement in your bylaws, and it depends on your bylaws. I have one meeting that says anybody who comes to the meetings, that's a quorum. I've done it that says, I remember, Art, you did this with the Bucks County Libertarians. He said, all registered Libertarians in Bucks County, half of them form a quorum. Well, we couldn't get half of the registered Libertarians in Bucks County to come to a meeting. Also, yeah, I had to rewrite the bylaws. Yeah.
Speaking of bylaws, does the club have the authority to recognize Robert's rules during certain times?
Yes.
And
Yes.
they say that we don't recognize it and not utilize it?
Correct. When you chart, you say what that is. There are many rules of order. There's modern rules of order. There's dozens of them. You can choose the one you want. Robert's is the one that's most used worldwide. It's been around 140 years. Thank you, lady. Practice. In fact, I got agrees that are ready to practice. Yes, Mike.
I've been in a meeting where this happened, I don't know if it's legal or not. They wanted to do something, and they said, we're going to step outside the rules.
There's a motion called suspending the rules, and that is how you change the agenda. Make a motion to change the rules to address X, whatever it may be. And since you're going off the rails, 2/3 vote in order to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And I'll get into the details. I'm going to do the practice. I would be happy now as chair. But wait, before I begin, let me divine stuff. People on the edges, my apologies, I'm going to call you audience. So, Ken, Mike, Christine, Evelyn, Carol, you guys are audience, and everybody over there, you're all audience too. David especially is audience. The middle two, you're the voting members. So you guys don't have anything to say. What I want to do is I would now entertain a motion to decide whether or not we should have practice.
So moved.
Who's that? Okay.
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor that we should have practice of parliamentary procedure. Is there a second? I see a second from Frank and a second from the gentleman whose name I don't know. My apologies. Welcome. Fellow Toastmaster. We now have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Chair recognizes the gentleman in the red shirt.
Is it really beneficial for us to have practice on this, or should we move on to something else for the meeting?
Well, that's a question.
Okay.
Point of information.
Point of information, okay, I'm sorry. Well, maybe the question would be, never mind. Point of information.
Point of information.
Thank you.
It's not for me to decide. There's a motion on the floor, whether it's good or bad. I'm impartial. I cannot say. Chair recognizes Go G.
Go, would you like to speak in favor of the motion because blah, 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 blah?
Sure.
I would argue it. Oh, I can't say that! My apologies, my apologies.
Oh, I got it then.
Right.
But not a community,
Oh,
Toastmasters
wait a minute.
would like to speak. Huh?
My apologies, I should not have called on you. Is there somebody who wishes to speak against the motion?
I think.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to speak against the motion because we've only got about 5 minutes left and there's not going to be enough time for practice.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. Does somebody now want to speak in favor of the motion?
Call to question.
There's a motion on the floor to call the question.
Second that.
Thank you. Without objection, we'll call the question.
Objection.
We have an objection. Okay, we'll now move to a vote. I'll do a show of hands without objection. Chair recognizes Randy. What's your point of order, sir?
Point of order, this is an audience speaking. An audience member speaking, she has no voting privileges.
The member is correct. The audience is reminded to please behave or we ask you to leave the room. I gotta tell you, I youth leadership. And one of the sessions was the parliamentary procedure, and they bought into it head over heels. They loved it. They loved the swords. They had 2 sergeants at arms. Both of them sitting there with gavels waiting for somebody to do something. One of the mothers is on the side. We're having a meeting to decide our
Order
graduation.
of the day, sir.
Without objection, the chair will entertain a motion to suspend the rules to extend time. It's one of the motions. So we go to an election then. Hearing none. With that, would you mind withdraw your motion?
Orders of the day again, sir.
This presentation is now concluded. Thank you for your attention. Had some, while I'm waiting for my replacement, I will just continue. Had the motion been made properly, could we call the question? Are we now going to a vote? And we just, yeas and nays, secret ballot, whatever it may be. And that would help you do business. Now, since there's still nobody here to replace me, and a Toastmaster, there's an opportunity to speak. A Toastmaster never turns down an opportunity to speak. I hate her to stand over my voice. The next one's an election. Let's elect the friendliest person in the room. The floor is now open for nominating. Who is the friendliest person in the room? You can nominate yourself, too.
I nominate myself.
You can't. Audience. Is there a voting? Order to the day.
Give her voting privileges?
I'm sorry?
Can we vote to give her voting privileges?
It's up to the bylaws. Like for Toastmasters, you would have to be a paid member. So if she fills out for him and pays. I'm waiting for somebody to come and replace me.
On time.
He's still in time.
Call orders to the day.
He called orders to the day already. Randy already did it. And there was nobody others. I just kept talking.